as how this isn't just craftables, it's flashlights and jars of weed. I kind of went overboard, mostly with the alcohol bottles. So this is the alcohol bottle compared to the picture. I think I got it pretty much spot on. I saw this in the picture and I was like, I remember that bottle. I think I can find that bottle. It took me forever to find this thing, but I finally did find it. You can get them off of US Plastics. They were like 70 cents a piece, and I felt like an asshole just buying like 2 or 3, so I bought like 20. I'll put the link in the description. So the bottle is fairly distinct. I mean, it was the standard alcohol bottle up until a couple of years ago. Alcohol doesn't come in bottles like this anymore. They're square. That's why it was so difficult to actually find this one. There's links all over the place that show this particular bottle, but it's not actually this bottle. They'll send you the square one. But yeah, you can actually get these still empty, which is handy. The next thing to tackle was the alcohol label, which was fairly distinct, and it was actually really clear. You can tell in the picture. I was like, I think I can recreate that. I don't have Photoshop or anything. I just used Microsoft Paint. The font I was able to find on What the Font, like I said in the other video talking about that, is that you can actually take a picture of something or upload a picture, and it'll analyze the font and then give you a bunch of options. And fortunately, this one was pretty much spot on, and the only manipulation that I had to do was stretch out the H a little bit. It's stretched out, it's a little bit taller. The rest of the fonts was pretty easy. I mean, it's just Arial, with exception to that 99 right there. That 99 was a little bit of a pain in the ass. I actually had to just draw that. It was close, but it was too thick. Fortunately, I found one of the older bottles that I'm pretty sure that this was based off of. It was clear enough so that you could actually read the text, so I actually went through and just typed everything out exactly the way it showed in the picture. I mean, it even still had the little flag at the top. It was red, but this is green. I wasn't sure about that. You can tell. I kind of thought it was some sort of picture, so I drew what I thought the picture looked like. Come to find out, it's just a solid block. Quite happy with how this turned out. The alcohol label I'll upload and I'll put it in the description also, so if you want to create this, you can. Yeah, the only thing is that the bottle caps that it came with are freaking useless. This thing right here, it doesn't actually seal on. The threading doesn't start till like halfway. It's pretty bad, but it doesn't actually seal to the bottle. So if you ever wanted to use these for the purpose that they were intended, get better caps, because these caps don't work. Yeah, I did it. Moving on. Sports wrap, Microsoft Paint. I think I already said that. What the Font again. The only thing that was different was the actual Elastorap logo. In the actual picture, it's stretched out to both sides, and I don't actually have a good way of doing that, so I kind of left it. It still registers as what it should be, so I even put a bar graph at the bottom. If you scan it, it just says Eastern 57. The box was pretty easy to make. I just made a template. I took the box that the ace bandages actually came in and just sort of made a little box looking thing. I didn't glue it down, so I flattened it out and made a template for it so that I can recreate it. I tried this out by tracing it onto an old folder, which is what this one ended up being, just again to test how well it worked, and it ended up, turning out just fine, so I could recreate it. And then once I did this, I got some even better cardstock that kind of matched. It's supposed to be the same tan as this, but it wasn't really exact. Either way, this was the final version. I simplified the little hook hole there. I tried to get all fancy with the funny looking hole, but ended up not liking that, so I just went simple with the single hole. It wasn't too difficult, seeing as how it's a nice close-up picture of everything. So yeah, I'll upload these labels along with the other labels and stuff. The extras are going to friends who are also fans of The Last of Us, so none of this is wasted. Alright, so Old Waker Molotov cocktail. I think I showed it off in the preview, but I put an LED flame bulb in there, and it was pretty easy. It's just some film and stuff, and you can see that the sensor is still kind of going backwards and forwards, so it can't tell if it wants to be right side up or upside down. It's a flat, flexible PCB that you basically just smoosh down, and then wires are run up here into polycarbonate tube and an 18650 in here, and I don't know if you can tell, but there's the tube that runs all the way down with those little tea light bulbs that kind of flicker, and I wanted to have something in there just for the shit of it. And you can see that there's actually, you know, alcohol in there. This is just rubbing alcohol that I dyed. But there's actually liquid in here, and it's sealed off from the inner tube in there. It took me a couple of tries to actually get that down. I tried resin, but alcohol dissolves resin. But strangely enough, it does not dissolve cyanoacrylate. So I was able to get a good watertight seal on those LEDs in there, and the 18650. And because it's an 18650, there's a recharge port right there. So, whoops. There's a couple of different modes on this particular bulb. The bottle was just a plastic whiskey bottle. I just looked up plastic whiskey bottle on Amazon, and sure enough, this came up. They come in a package of 6, or at least I got a package of 6, so I did a test bed on a couple of them, which are those, and I'll show you in a second. The label is, again, just Microsoft Paint. I'm going to totally turn this off because that's annoying as hell. The label, again, is just Microsoft Paint. I drew it out to include like the little graphics and stuff like that, and if you look at the picture and zoom in, you can see that like I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to make as far as like the designs and stuff, and they're totally unintelligible and stupid. But yeah, and that's about it. They're totally unintelligible and stupid. The rest of the label, I'm pretty sure this was based off of old Quaker whiskey, and I found a good example of that. And I think even the font was taken straight off of that, like distilled by a, you know, distillery company, that kind of stuff. That's all pulled directly from the old Quaker bottle. Blended with soju, that's probably not an old Quaker thing. If you've ever had soju, raise your hand. I love it. The top here, I went all fancy with Paint 3D because the Quaker logo actually has a little bit of a 3D effect to it. So you just type that out and then shift it a little bit so that you can get the 3D looking lines and stuff. Mostly MS Paint. Here's the prototype bottle. The bottle is empty, but you can actually pull the wick off of it, and it's attached to a little mag light. And since they're, you know, 3 volts, I just put a switch on it, and there you go. It's just straight AA's, AA's. Yeah, this is a AAA flashlight. The bottles come clear. I hit it with some Uber Frost. It's actually my new favorite clear coat because it's basically a clear coat, but it's perfectly flat as opposed to matte clear coat, which has a tiny bit of a gloss to it. You know, you get sick of that little sheen from the matte clear coats, so you want something perfectly flat, and this is it. And then, of course, I made a dirty version, weathered, and to make it look like it's actually been, you know, through the wastelands, da-da-da-da. Should we talk about the weed jars or the flashlights first? Let's talk about the flashlights. So this is the flashlight from The Last of Us Part 1. This is the one that Joel uses. This is the one that Ellie uses. I think this might be the one that Tess uses. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's basically just a standard issue angled flashlight, you know, the standard GI issue one. The thing I did with this one is that I filed all the ridges off of it, and then I cut off a good 1.5 inches so that it's shorter, because the one in the game is not a full-size flashlight. The only thing that's not, well, not the only thing, but the biggest thing that's not consistent is that the buttons on the game are square buttons, and these are, you know, just an old Judco that I had sitting around in a recharge port, because there's another 18650 in here. Oh god. The LED flashlight portion, that was from an old cannibalized flashlight. This right here is just a bunch of leather string, and in the game this is how they attach it to the backpack strap. This is a Streamlight Survivor. This was Ellie's main flashlight in The Last of Us Part 2. It's very distinct because of the shape of it. You can tell, obviously, they based it off of Streamlight Survivor because it's basically exactly it. You can get them on Amazon. You can actually get replica versions off of Etsy. This is just regular gray primer. Once I pulled all the extra hardware off, just hit it with gray primer, and then that's really it. Do a little bit of weathering, and boo-bam. The little clip here, that's kind of a standard thing on some of the earlier gens and some of the other versions that Streamlight actually creates. It's just a clip to hold on, you know, a clip, for lack of actual words. I'm guessing they just added it for a little bit of visual interest. Either way, it was easy to recreate. Just take some steel wire, bend it into shape, and then put some black elastic on it, and that's it. It's really, really super bright. It's actually a really good flashlight. Also, what's really cool is that the sound is pretty much spot on. I don't know if they pulled that directly for the game, but it's pretty spot on. This particular version is the 4 AA's. You can get them with rechargeable batteries, and then you can, get a recharger for it and stuff, but I just went with the 4 AA's. And that's a Streamlight Survivor. Good flashlight. Highly recommended. Would buy again. The jar of weed. So again, this was a second attempt. The first attempt was, I took a whole bunch of chopsticks and dowels and tapered the ends so that they were kind of pointy and stuff like that, because growing up in the 80s and 90s, that's what joints looked like. White with tapered ends and stuff like that. And I found the jars on Amazon again, just plastic mason jars, and it had the little volume markers on the side. It sprays some of the Uberfrost in there to get some of the hazing, and then sprinkle in some flocking, and then it looks like, your joints are leaking. So going back to the 90s joints, come to find out, they don't actually look like that anymore. They kind of look like they have these little bottle rocket wicks on them. So I made another version with the more modern looking joints on there. I just cut up some straws, wrapped them in brownish looking paper, and then did the bottle rocket wick thing. They look pretty good, hopefully. I don't actually know. Somebody that smokes weed, please tell me if they look good. Again, who's to say what Eugene was actually, had in mind. He's kind of an old school guy. Then again, it's in the future, so who knows, old school might actually be current. I don't know. Anyway, and that's pretty much everything. I still got the Switchblade video coming, and the gun video coming, and those are pretty much it. That would close out my The Last of Us prop foray. Anyway, hope you liked it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later. Just lost my train of thought. I hate that. It happens every time. The box wasn't too difficult to bake. I wonder if there's anything else I need to talk about this. I'm sure I'll remember it later, but I don't remember it now. I'm pretty sure I'll cut that part out, but who knows. Again, hopefully this is in focus, but probably not. Jars. Oh, camera. I just kicked it. Ooh. Hopefully it's straight again. Where was it? I don't know. And I was just like, well, that's different. Apparently joints have changed since I was a child,